moment. And in the midst of me leaving and things like that, we were arguing, and I pushed him, and he was trying to, move me out of the way. And I was at the time staying with him, so I had all my things in his room. I ended up tripping over something, and that's how I got the injury on my mouth. I hit the side of the bed.
And you were so angry that you got your 6-year-old dog up and walked out to leave that residence over just an argument.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Meanwhile, here at home, investigators with the Baton Rouge Police Department, they're asking for your help as they search for 25-year-old Joshua Singleton. He's wanted on a charge of battery of a dating partner and child endangerment. Investigators believe Singleton drives a gold 2016 Honda Accord. So if you spot him or have any information about where he may be, call Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP.
Well, we are about to watch the parole revocation hearing of a man after he had a standoff with police officers for what now the victim claims was her just falling on the bed. Let's see how this parole board handles it. With that, let's jump in.
All right. So you're accused of violating condition number 4 of your parole conditions. It reads, you were arrested by the Baton Rouge Police Department December 19, 2023 for battery of a dating partner, child endangerment. You were billed for this arrest under DC-24-00588. This bill was dismissed on April 23rd, 2024 per the victim's request, but there is no evidence to state that the incident did not occur or is any different from the police report. The police report also alleges visible injuries were done to the victim in the form of a busted lip. The victim of the alleged offense also contacted the Baton Rouge Police Department twice previously, alleging continuing domestic violence behaviors toward her during your current period of supervision. So, Mr. Singleton, how do you plead to violating condition number 4?
Guilty.
Okay. Your case has been assigned to Mrs. Ledoux. Would you answer her questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Singleton. Just for the record, are you a third-class offender?
A third-class offender? I don't think so.
Okay. Your master prison record reflects that you're a third-class offender. Have you been on supervision previously?
Parole? No,
Yes.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
So, Mr. Singleton, you had actually 2 instances where police were called. There was one that it was only a police record that you went to an ex-girlfriend's house and wanted to stay there because she said you knew that you were going to be in trouble for the domestic abuse battery. Do you recall that incident?
No, that incident, that's not true.
Okay, so did you go to Texas to pick up your girlfriend whenever she went to Texas with her family?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I find you.
I never been out the state since I've been released.
So you did not have a problem when you had the domestic abuse battery charge. Did you feel like you were going to go back to prison?
So, can you repeat the question?
When you had that domestic abuse battery charge filed against you prior to it being dropped, did you think you were going to go back to prison?
I mean, I didn't know of the charge before I was arrested. I didn't know, that I was charged with that before, the arrest. But I mean, after they told me that I had a warrant, I knew I was going back to jail. After I was told about the warrant.
Who told you about the warrant?
My lawyer.
Your guardian.
My lawyer.
Lawyer. Okay. So were you in custody at that time when your lawyer told you you had a warrant?
No, my lawyer was getting ready to make I forgot what they called it, but they was trying to get in touch with someone so they can turn me in with my lawyer being present.
So why would they have a warrant for you if there was no evidence that you did anything?
A warrant, I mean, the police said the police was called, so I guess that's why they had the warrant.
So why was the police called, you think?
Due to, I can't say why, but
Who called the police?
I guess Miss Norwood.
And why would she call the police if nothing happened?
Well, nothing physically happened, but we did have an argument.
Well, I have arguments. I don't call the police. I think that the police was called.
I feel just because I think she knew that I was on parole, that's why she called the police. Because she knew that I probably would get back, I would get in more trouble by her or calling the police and I'm going back to jail by me being on parole.
So you're okay. I'll listen to what everybody has to say. Any questions?
Sir, I'm just reading from the statement that you went to an ex-girlfriend's house because you said you needed a place to stay, and that the second police report details how the subject was staying with an ex-girlfriend, not the address of record. And then 2 weeks later that he began kicking on the door when she asked him to wake up. The subject reportedly fled from the address after she called because he was aware of the domestic abuse warrant out for him. The subject was then arrested following a short standoff on 12/19/23 at the third address, which was not his address of record. So what happened? Was there a standoff? Were you at a different address? Is that attorney?
A standoff is considered me being with a firearm towards, the police. That's a standoff. I never brandished the firearm, never possessed the firearm, never.
You just refused to come out.
I had no access. No, I came outside when they acknowledged and said who they was. I contacted my lawyer first.
Okay.
And the lawyer told me that it's best for me to go outside, and I went outside and I turned myself in.
That may account for the word short standoff, that it was a short, in their eyes, a standoff, because police on the other side of the door, they don't know if you're getting a gun or if you have a gun.
Yeah, I never.
You called your attorney at the time. That's what you were saying, just getting legal advice. And then you went.
That's the only thing I did. I never had a standoff. It never was a standoff. I never brandished a firearm. They never got a firearm from me or off of me.
Okay,
but in the presence of the house.
Seems like there was a lot of problems with all this domestic violence and back and forth between girlfriends and stuff. So I don't have any further questions.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Singleton. You mentioned your lawyer a few times this morning. Did you expect a lawyer to be present for this procedure?
No, I knew my lawyer wouldn't be present for this. No.
Okay. So you're ready to continue on without your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Because that attorney that you had you hired him, right?
Can you repeat the question?
When you called, you mentioned that you called and came to whatever was going on to the house. You had hired that attorney, right?
Yeah, they represented me for
okay.
This case.
Something. I got it. Okay. So we're going to hear from the folks who have joined us today. First, we'd like to hear from your mother, Ms. Singleton.
Good morning.
Morning. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm here for support of my son. I just want to say, like, if this is resolved today and he is released, the goal is to get him out of Louisiana and to get him to Houston, where I stay. The judge has granted that he can have out-of-state parole and have his parole transferred to Houston, where I'm living. I do know that the condition with the charges being dismissed, since they have been dismissed, that he has to take a class that's a 6 months class. So the goal is to get all of that set up, get him enrolled in the class, get everything taken care of, and get him transitioned from Louisiana to Houston. I've listened to some of the things that were said about the ex-girlfriend and going to her house and pounding on the door and stuff. And I'm familiar with that young lady, and I have like text messages and things on my phone from the young lady, um, about things that she said she was gonna do out of spite because she knew his situation, and she was mad because he was no longer in a relationship with her and now currently in a relationship with Ms. Norwood. So I think that she was calling the police and saying things out of spite in order to get him locked up and in trouble, which I don't think is fair. But we have people that react and do things because they feel that their feelings are hurt or someone has wronged them. That's beyond any of our control. But my goal really is to get my son out of Louisiana, get him to Houston, get him a fresh start, help him gain meaningful employment, complete his parole, complete his classes, and go on to be a productive citizen. That is my overall goal.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for your support of him. Could we hear from Ms. Norwood?
Good morning. I just want to say that I'm here in support of Joshua. A lot of things did transpire that night, and that young lady that you all are speaking on, I have had several incidents with her, involving her, just her and I personally, because Josh doesn't typically involve himself in that. And at that time, I was really going through a lot personally. And I had found out some things about them possibly messing around. And at that moment, that the night that I called the cops, that was mainly out of spite because I felt a type of way about me hearing things about him and the ex-girlfriend. So I did take advantage of his situation in that moment. And I regret that I never wanted Josh to go to jail or any of this to happen. I'm in support of him, moving and changing his people, place, and things and bettering himself. And I regret my part on falsely, taking things as far as I did when I didn't have the right to do that. Despite me feeling a type of way about the ex-girlfriend and what I had heard. I had no proof of, them talking or anything. But like I said, prior to that, I have had some encounters with her. So it was just a lot going on, and I have personally sought therapy for the things that I feel like I was going through at that moment, and it really had nothing to do with Joshua because he had just come home. So I was just taking my anger out and acting off of emotions that particular day or that time.
Did you go to the hospital for injuries?
Yes, I did, because like I told the DA, I did have an injury to my mouth due to me the day that that incident happened. Joshua had separated himself from me that entire day. So I was already texting him, feeling a type of way. And then when he finally did come back around, I was still angry at the moment. And in the midst of me leaving and things like that, we were arguing, and I pushed him, and he was trying to, move me out of the way. And I was at the time staying with him. So I had all my things in his room. I ended up tripping over something, and that's how I got the injury on my mouth. I hit the side of the bed.
And you were
night.
so angry that you got your 6-year-old dog up and walked out to leave that residence over just an argument.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Norwood. We appreciate your input. Joshua, is there anything else you'd like to say to us?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I want to say, like, I don't personally have anything against females at all. I was raised around females my whole life between my mom, her mother, and her sisters. So I respect women. This domestic thing, that's not me. That's not my motive vendetta. Like, I don't have anything against women. That's my pride and joy. I love my girlfriend to death. I love my mother to death. I love my grandparents. I love my grandmother, her sisters. And like I said, a lot of people do see things in me that I don't see. And I do feel like I was taken advantage of in this situation. But that's all I want to say. Thank you.
All right, I think we are prepared to vote. Mrs. Ledoux?
Mr. Singleton, based on police reports and all of the notes that I have on this, without any conflicting evidence other than statement, my vote today is to revoke you. I find that there's a preponderance of evidence that a physical altercation took place, and my vote is to revoke.
Mrs. Stapleton?
I concur, and I do hope that there is a domestic violence course that you can take, whatever jail you're at, because you need it and it'll do you good. So I concur with Ms. Ledoux.
And my vote is the same, Mr. Singleton, to revoke and ask that you take advantage of any program opportunity that you can while you're there. So today, sir, your parole's being revoked. Good luck to you, sir.
So I have a question.
What is that?
Do I get all my credit as far as I've been in jail for 6 months and I have 3 months free credit? I'm supposed to have 9 months credit.
Right. I can't answer that. It's a DOC question because we don't calculate the time. So your classification there could probably help you get in touch with them. And I do want to let you know that you need to be, if your intention is to go to Houston, you need to start now on the interstate compact agreement. It's this board that allows you to go to out of state, not the judge. So
see,
start working.
Another thing is with the credit, is like no way that I can get no one to, I know that's hard. No one's going to be able to help me get that credit because I don't go to court anymore. Usually when you get court credit, they say it in court and it's on the record as far as like they're giving you that credit. So
it's actually like a matter of law as far as your street credit and your earned compliance credit. So the DOC calculates that for you. So after today's proceeding, that's what they will do. They'll calculate your time.
But I done seen a lot of people.
Master prison record. You will. We'll make a note that you're inquiring.
Yeah, I'm just saying because I see a lot of people go through DOC and they don't get their credit.
I understand, and we're going to make a note that you're asking about it. That concludes business. Does that conclude our business? Oh, I'm sorry. We have one more at East Baton Rouge.
Okay, we'll actually go over how the good time is calculated in a moment, for those of you who are wondering. But first, let me get some things off my chest. And that is, we see time and time and time again, over and over and over, where the victim comes up and makes a statement, really just lying to the board, saying, in this case, well, was it Miss Stapleton or Miss Ledoux who asked straight up, well, how did you go to the hospital? And she's like, oh boy. And the victim starts giving off this whole story. Well, see, we was in the room and then I pushed him and it goes like this, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then finally, and I tripped. The classic, I tripped and fell. I banged my head, so I went to the hospital. And she's like, "Well, you took her your child out. You're so dangerous." And then remember, he absconded. He also had a violation of a protection order. The police were looking for him. They had a bolo, and I have shared this before. I do think that there can be something enacted that would, there is something that should happen when I believe if someone calls the police and files a report and says that they were beat up by someone, and then they retract it and show, I think that there should be repercussions. Now, listen to me. I'm not saying to punish them, because I think that, and many might agree, they're still a victim in the situation, is being under some type of syndrome or what it might be. But I think that it would be that they would have to take a program, and the program would be, they would be in a room with other women in their same situation, and they can just learn that, wow, this is a pattern that as a victim we fall into, and these are mistakes that we're making, and there's other people like me, and it can become a support group and maybe just put a stop to it, right? So it's not so much of a punishment, but it's repercussions. So one, well, you know what, before I go and testify, let me know that I have to really be committed to it, because I'm going to have to take programs if they find that I'm being dishonest or whatever it may be. And then maybe they won't. Maybe their conviction is not that much. They're just not willing to, or they end up having to take the programs, and hopefully it can put an end, or help put an end, a certain percentage to this cycle of abuse. All right, that's my 2.5 cents, or as Richard would say, my $19.58 with inflation. I do really enjoy this board. The 3-woman panel, they don't mess around. I love, and they've got really great storied backgrounds. And if you're going up for revocation and you're hurting on your spouse, you don't want this board. So let's go look at the time that we were talking about here. Now, I do want to say that we have seen situations where it didn't seem to fall under what we're about to read. So, I think there is still a lot of confusion around it, but this is what we have to look at right now. Okay, so when the parole of a parolee has been revoked by the committee for violation of conditions of parole, the parolee shall be returned to physical custody of the Department of Public Safety and Corrections. Corrections services and serve the remainder of the sentence as of the date of his release on parole, and any credit for time served for good behavior while on parole. The parolee shall be given credit for the time served prior to the revocation hearing for time served in actual custody while being held for a parole violation in a local detention facility, state institution, or at a state institution pursuant to Code Criminal blah, blah, blah. Any such prisoner, this is actually interesting, or at a state institution. So you can even get credit for time served if you're being in the extradition process. Any such prisoner whose parole has been revoked may be considered by the committee for parolee in accordance with the provision of this part, except provided subparagraph. This is any offender who has been released on parole and whose parole supervision is being revoked pursuant to blah, 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 determined by committee on parole, shall be required to serve the following sentences. And this is interesting for, it's for a technical violation, the offender shall not serve more than 90 days. So like there are times where they're just being revoked for 90 days, or maybe they don't even have a revocation hearing. They just wait the 90 days, but this is interesting, right? 90 days for a second technical violation. It can't be more than 120 days. For a third technical violation, it should not serve more than 180 days. So as you can see, you can have technical violations and you can have different types of violations where you have to serve your full sentence. I don't know if we've ever seen a parole revocation technical violation hearing. I feel like it's not something they do in Louisiana. In Connecticut, we see it quite often where folks are just have revocation hearings and they get like a 90-day punishment, but they've already served 60. So it's like a sanction, they call it. So I don't know. Again, it just bothers me when we see this. He beats you up. You take your little baby, a 6-year-old analyst, to see this. The whole cycle just keeps on repeating itself, and it needs to stop. It just needs to stop. And man, anyways, with that, I'll let you go.